This is our fifth out of seven town hall meetings. I wanted to share with you that my very hardworking staff, who is literally just working every day for all of you here, has been at every single one of these meetings. They come to support. They come to answer questions that I might not know how to answer. They come to make sure that all of you are supported and get the answers that you need. And if you have anything that we can't resolve tonight that you need assistance with, we want to make sure we connect you with the right person. So if you are on my staff, please stand up and wave tonight. Turn around. See all the people in the back? I'm so proud of everybody, and I would spend the time to introduce everybody, but then we wouldn't have any more time for all of this and all of you. But they really are I'm grateful to them so much. I like to start things off with a fun picture of Rex, our beloved orange dinosaur at Beach and Peach, who we have used for our I Dig Jacks promotion to promote all the building that's going on around the city. But everybody loves dinosaurs, especially Rex, but we also don't want to get stuck in the distant past like our prehistoric pals. So I am all about moving this city forward. So I'm going to spend a few minutes at the front of this meeting going through my budget priorities, why we have done what we have done, what we are spending our money on, and why I believe that lowering our millage rate is not something that we should be doing right now, okay? Well, they say a budget is a moral document. I think that's true. It's a value statement for certain. So I want to share with you the values behind this budget, starting with our core function of public safety. More than half of every dollar in our city goes to police, fire, and rescue. As you can see, we allocate the rest to things like infrastructure, your street resurfacing, your sidewalks, lights, etc., education, health, and so on. So how do we compare with other Florida cities? As you can see, our public safety spending per capita is really not out of line with that of other major Florida cities. We spend about $1,000 per person per year. However, as a total percentage of the overall budget, in Tampa and Orlando, they spend closer to 20%. In Miami, it's about 35%. In Jacksonville, for every $2 we spend in the general fund, $1 goes to public safety. And we chose to invest in our first responders because when a crisis hits, seconds matter and lives are at stake. We also have more than 840 square miles to cover, hundreds more than any other Florida city. And don't forget that we struck an historic deal for police and fire personnel, including a return to a defined pension for new hires. They were really, they were struggling to recruit and retain, and we felt that was really, really important to do. But it was a deep breath because it's a lot of money. But we felt it was a really important thing to return to. So I want you to take a look at this slide. This reaffirms something that I have said over and over again. In Jacksonville, we run a lean budget, regardless of what you may hear. We run a lean budget. Our overall city budget per resident is among the lowest in the state. I'm not bragging on that. I'm just telling you that is the fact. The lowest in the state. And we're doing it with the lowest property tax rate of any major city by far. So we talk a lot about how we want to remain a city that's affordable. We want to remain a city where people want to come and bring their families, and they think that they can afford to live here and work here. And so we have kept our property taxes low for that reason. And we have made extraordinary efforts, especially this year, to try to hold steady to, oh look, it's Councilman Jimmy Peluso arriving on his little scooter. Thank you for joining us, Gimpy. Come in and have a seat. Now we appreciate you. So, despite being efficient and the city with the lowest tax rate in Florida, you may have heard that some on the city council want to cut this lean budget. The other night, they did vote to keep our millage rate flat. This was in the meeting that was a week and a half ago. But it was really, frankly, because of a lot of hard work. We had a council person who wasn't there. But honestly, our police and fire unions did an amazing job by coming out publicly, which is really hard for them to do. They were trying to apply some private, pressure that this isn't going to be a good thing. And when that didn't work, they came out publicly and said, this is a disaster waiting to happen. And we appreciate that. Our civic council, which is made up of business leaders all over the city, came out and said the same thing in a public letter to the city council. So the other night they did vote to keep our millage flat, but they're going to come back for another vote on the 23rd where they'll have the full council. And they need to make sure that they hear from you all if you are in agreement with me that this is not the right time to do this. I hope you'll make your voices heard. So let me say a few words about the millage rate. The issue arose during questioning at my last town hall meeting where citizens requested a brief explanation of what the millage rate actually is. So think of the millage rate as the price we all chip in for every $1,000 of our home's taxable value to keep the city running. It's what pays for everything we count on, like police and fire. In fact, our millage rate barely covers police and fire right now. Barely covers just police and fire. But we're talking about parks, libraries, street repairs, those things. Each year, the city council sets that rate to match the services in the budget. Given that we are a city that already pays the lowest rate in the state, you're going to hear me say that a bunch. Even a small change, as currently proposed by the council, can add up to a big cutback on what we can deliver for our community. So let's talk about the latest trends in home values. Over the past 2 years, home values in Jacksonville have been declining. They were going up. Over the last 2 years, they've started to decline, and they are projected to continue to fall. That means homeowners will see lower tax bills as early as next year. In other words, the goal of cutting the millage to provide tax relief, the market's already doing that, but reducing the millage rate on top of declining property values would be poorly timed and very expensive. When the Finance Committee suggested this reduction, I don't know whether they considered the impact of falling home values. If they had, they would have realized that the revenue loss could far surpass the $14 million shortfall now expected. That adds up already to $77 million over the next 5 years, because there's a compounding effect every year for what you're losing that you're not bringing in for property taxes. So this is a really big deal. This blow would hit at a time when food, health, and most importantly, affordable housing are major concerns for our residents who rightly expect some relief from their city government. Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate the clap. So the currently proposed property tax cut or millage rate cut will result in the average homeowner saving, after their homestead exemption, a little more than $1 a month. That's what you're going to get back in your pocket, about $1.50. That's about 5 cents a day. And it does nothing for the roughly half of the people in our city who rent, who are not homeowners. The cuts City Council is fussing over are less than 1% of the overall budget. That's not belt tightening, folks. It risks compromising public safety and essential city services in the future. And it's just a gimmick that does nothing to address the affordability crisis that is top of mind for most residents in our city. Absolutely nothing. So, as I mentioned earlier, the millage rate cut that about half of council wants translates to about 5 cents a day for an average homeowner, but $5 a day for a corporate landlord. It favors the people at the very top who are least in need of tax breaks like this. But look at what the tax break costs the city collectively. Fewer affordable homes, more homeless, hungrier senior citizens, overcrowded emergency rooms, sicker adults, and all this is adding up to lost economic opportunity. So I'm going to make an economic argument tonight. I feel a moral obligation to this budget, but I'm going to make an economic argument because I think that's what works best. And I also want you to consider it. Here's the reality. We are the fastest growing city in the state of Florida. Hopefully, as you're seeing all the cranes in the air and businesses choosing to expand in Jacksonville, momentum is on our side when it comes to that. We're handling that growth well. I know not everybody's thrilled with the growth, but it's coming. And so the big key is going to be, how do we manage it? how do we manage it? And that's what we're trying to make sure we do well. People from across the country and the world are choosing Jacksonville, and they're going to continue to do that because as we know, we have an amazing place to live. So look at this slide. It took Jacksonville 50 years to grow by 500,000 people at the time of our consolidation to the present day. At the current rate of our growth, the next 500,000 will be added in half that time, between now and 2050. Growth brings new jobs, businesses, and opportunities. However, the data indicates that without investment in our people, we will remain a tale of two cities and stuck. How many times have we talked about being a city of potential that never quite moves past that? Well, if we don't invest in our city, that's what we're going to continue to be, but also we're going to continue to be that city where parts of us benefit from the growth and others fall increasingly behind. And the number one thing I said when I ran for this office was, I want to make Jacksonville a city that works for everybody, not just a handful of people. We've been working very hard to do that. So look how long our residents live. Did you know that as a city, our average life expectancy is 2 years lower than the state and national average? On average, residents around Riverside High can expect to live to be 77. But in College Garden, near UF Health downtown, the median life expectancy is just 62. A good 15 years shorter than folks in your neighborhood, and an astonishing 25 years shorter than those living in the Loretto neighborhood near Mandarin, where on average folks live to be 87. That's what I'm trying to change. Because when we invest with purpose, we don't just balance ledgers, we add years to life and life to years. We also supercharge our economy. So tonight I'll highlight 3 investments the Finance Committee cut or reduced. I'm asking for you to help get us to full restoring of that funding. Our budget is a budget for the people. Our proposals for affordable housing, addressing hunger, and access to health care will not solve every problem, but they are lifelines to those who receive that assistance. They help thousands of people move from surviving to thriving. For the rest of us, it means economic benefit that comes from keeping our citizens healthy and in their homes. So let's start with affordable housing and homelessness. We've all heard about the cost of housing lately, right? When a family spends more than 30% of their income on house-related costs, that family is considered cost-burdened. In 10 of our 14 city council districts, the housing cost burden exceeds the national average. That should move us from debate to action. You've heard our residents say in a recent survey, affordable housing has now surpassed crime as the #1 concern for our residents. That's the first time in history. I've proposed nearly $12 million for affordable housing and homelessness prevention. The Finance Committee cut $7.8 million, which includes all of our local funding for making housing more affordable. These initiatives were a continuation of pilot programs that have a proven track record for success. So the idea here is to create a pilot program, show whether it's successful or not, and if it's successful, keep going and bring in the private sector. That's the goal. The goal is not for the city to keep expanding these services. It is to bring the private sector in because we can show them with data that it's working. That's what we're trying to do. So here's what these projects would accomplish in year 1. We would build 60 additional affordable homes. We would help 85 working families buy their first home. We would keep 80 families in their homes by diverting them from eviction. We would move hundreds more into transitional housing. And the idea here is to keep at-risk families from falling into homelessness, because all of that compounds and hurts our economy. When a family can afford a safe home, kids are healthier, work is steadier, and neighborhoods are stronger. So doing all that is the right thing to do, but it is also the economic imperative. These programs, which we hope the full council will restore, would provide an economic benefit of more than $30 million in the first year, a return on investment of more than 300% of what we are investing. If the moral reasons for keeping families housed do not persuade our city council, I do hope the economic reasons can move the needle. Access to food. This is a quiet emergency in plain sight that we're dealing with in Jacksonville. Nearly 1 in 5 of our neighbors cannot reliably afford groceries, even before you factor in inflation. Hunger in our community is so widespread that 9 of 14 city council districts clock in at above the national average. Hunger is also expensive. It adds thousands in healthcare costs per person per year. Every missed meal weakens a household and slows our local economy. We need to treat this like smart infrastructure that we talk about all the time. Invest $1 now to prevent a costly ER visit later. That's why my budget included $2.21 million for Meals on Wheels to support 2,000 older adults. The Finance Committee cut and then only partially restored that funding. We need the full funding restored because rising inflation will only exacerbate the problem of hunger. We receive an amazing return on investment for this Meals on Wheels program, about $4.8 million in reduced healthcare spending each year. That's roughly 100% return on investment, and it gives our homebound seniors dignity, which is important in our city, right? These aren't folks who can just go to the senior center when they want to. They're homebound, and this may be the only meal they get in the day. So let's be the city where no seniors or kids go hungry and no working family has to choose between groceries and the light bill. So finally, access to health care, which is a passion for me. If you have tried to book a doctor's appointment, you know the wait. Our data confirms what families live through every day. Jacksonville has fewer primary care physicians and pediatricians than Orlando, Tampa, or Miami. We have a real dearth of pediatricians per child, and that's a problem for us. A lot of our primary care numbers are not good, and primary care is cheap. What gets expensive is when you get cancer or some exotic disease that then your insurance has to kick in and pick up. Primary care is not expensive, so we're trying to connect people to services that are already available so they don't end up in the ER. 10 of 14 council districts, the number of primary care physicians per resident is worse than our Florida peer cities. When primary care is out of reach, as I said, people turn to the ER, parents miss work, and preventable conditions become chronic, which weighs on our economy. The human cost is heavy and the economic cost is real. That's why I have called for investment in our telehealth program, which has been wildly successful, HealthLink Jax for our uninsured population, and primary care access via Jax Care Connect, which interestingly is a product of the Critical Quality of Life project that the city council developed years ago, and they came to a bunch of conclusions, so many of which we supported that went into this Jax Care Connect plan. And now they're saying we don't want to fund that. The investment is modest at $3.9 million. Again, the Finance Committee cut these programs and then only restored some of it. However, we need funding to be fully restored, as thousands of our neighbors are likely to be pushed out of the Affordable Care Act or Medicaid because of the bill that Congress just passed. So I don't know if you're keeping up with this, but in the bill they called the Big Beautiful Bill, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, says that by 2027, when these things kick in, conveniently after the midterms, almost 17 million people nationwide will lose their health insurance. What do you think that's going to mean for UF Health, who's our hospital that deals with our uninsured population? They're already just absolutely they're bursting at the seams. And we're having to give them more and more money just to make sure they can make it work every single year. What do you think that's going to be like? Now, Florida never expanded Medicaid, so for us, it's not going to be as big a hit as for other cities in other states. But between 30 and 50,000 of our residents are going to lose their insurance. The small investments here really pay off in reduced emergency room visits and productivity claims that come from a healthy workforce. The investment from these two programs alone has a return on investment of approximately 248%. Primary care is civic infrastructure. It keeps families healthy, businesses productive, and our safety net strong. So let me close with a simple truth. A responsible budget does not just fund police and fire. It opens doors to a set of house keys, a stocked pantry, and a doctor's visit on time. These investments pay for themselves and then some. If you want to dive deeper into some of the data behind tonight's presentation, visit our new data tank at stateofjax.org, which incidentally The Finance Committee also cut from the proposed budget, but we're going to continue to move forward and hope that we get some private sector help with that if the council won't restore it. But hiding data from folks is not a recipe for success. And if you own a business, you know how important data is to your success. Hey, you know, if you're an NFL team, if you're a business owner, you can't make blind decisions and just hope that you're throwing money at the right things. You need the data to see if what you're doing is working. That's what we're trying to accomplish with this. My budget goals are simple and common sense: safer streets, strong neighborhoods, and a city where talent meets affordability. Jacksonville is finally on the move. Now we have to decide whether our momentum will lead to shared prosperity or only benefit a handful of well-connected individuals. So let's invest in our people and our future as a city. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm ready for your questions and for your partnership. Thank you. So what I would like for you to do, if you would, is just step to the microphone and ask your question. And then I don't think we need a long line unless you start to see too many people and you don't think you're going to get your turn. But just step up and ask whatever you'd like to ask, and we'll keep going. Thank you. And please say your name if you would.
Hello, my name is Russ Blakesley.
Russ?
Yes.
Thank you for being here, Russ.
Thank you. So, my question is, it's regarding flooding and drainage.
Okay.
Okay, I live here in this zip code. So I have a drainage problem. Excuse me. I have a drainage problem in front of my house that I've been addressing with the city. This has been going on for about 2 years now. And it seems to me like our property taxes are going the opposite. They're not going down. They're going up. I've seen the value of the houses market coming down, but ours are still going up. They're going up 3%. They've climbed $2,500 in the last 3 years. So with your proposed budgets, for what I understand, the telehealth is a call center which directs people where they can go for health care. But it's not a clinic, right? Okay. Okay. And then the other thing was, I'm for seniors, the Meals on Wheels. So they're telling me, my street drainage is out of date. It floods when it's low tide. It goes into my driveway, goes into my garage, so my garage potentially floods because of the street drainage is behind. So now they're telling me, which for what I understand, usually it's a 5-year plan. So now Ron Salem got me word from City Public Works, it's going to take 6 to 9 years to get funding to fix my flooding problem. I got pictures showing cars flooding, people losing their cars. The apartment complex to me has had to replace their driveway because of erosion. I'm experiencing erosion. I haven't got a call back from risk management to find out who's responsible for this, because I shouldn't have to go through my homeowner's insurance for a city drainage that's not up to code. And I just think, with some of these budgets that you're asking for, 6 to 9 years is a long time to get a street drainage fix, Well,
I talked about the cost of everything that we have to cover in this city. And we would love to be able to do things faster than we can do them, but we are unable to do that.
Right. That's why I'm thinking some of these budgets should be cut to maybe put me into
what would you cut? What would you
plan.
cut in that budget?
Well, you've already got an increase on the Meals for Wheels. From what I understand, it was $135. They gave you $468. You're asking for 2.1, 2.2, and it was my understanding that 2 years ago we got that money from the federal government. So it's a big increase, I think. And then I don't know, I'm not sold on the telehealth. The
telehealth has saved us millions of dollars and has made sure that people don't have to go in the emergency room. It's this much money in a $2 billion budget.
And at the same time,
it's a fraction of a percent in a $2 billion budget.
It's just, it's my.
That's not the issue. I'll just tell you. But I would like Nina, if you wouldn't mind, to address the issue of, I don't know where your property is.
And I'd like to leave you these pictures.
I would love for you to do that.
Take the time to look at them.
But maybe Nina can explain the process in terms of how things are evaluated and how we get to those.
And I thank you for taking the time to listen to my
You
question.
bet, of course. I'm not suggesting there's no pain out there.
Right.
I'm just telling you there's a balance that we strike because we do try to keep our property taxes very low, and we have leaned out our budget as much as we can. And in fact, we asked all our departments to take cuts this year.
Right.
So
Well,
they did, but that comes also at a price.
Right.
So thank you, Mayor. There is a process, and I'll absolutely take your data, and I'd like to get back in touch with you. But we do receive the flooding complaints and issues, and they are entered in our database. They are ranked by elements such as potential damage to property, potential damage to other infrastructure, and then those are given a grade, and then we put them in order, and as funding becomes available, we do address those. I will certainly do that. I do understand that. And I do want to thank Councilmember Peluso. He recently helped put together, pass some legislation about how we can move DSR projects faster. I'm sorry, what was that? Great. And so, given the funding that we have, we're able to get projects started without having to go to council for every single one. So that at least allows us to get those started more quickly. And I'll look at your information and I'll get back in touch with you and see what we can do.
Thank you, Nina. And I do promise you this, these guys are great about getting back. We'll do whatever we can to try to address your issue. It is a huge city. It is a huge city. And we're going to have to address some of these issues with we're in the process of looking at zoning and where we should be building and where we shouldn't be building, and trying to create better incentives for our development community to get them into the places that maybe won't flood so easily. But we know it's a problem. But that is an enormous problem all over our city. And when we're talking about making sure that a handful of our neediest, hungriest residents get an opportunity to get a meal at a cost that is just, like I said, it's a fraction of a percent of the budget. I don't personally think that's too much to ask for a city that you want to thrive, because it does have a follow-on economic impact to what happens in the rest of our city. You know, if somebody can't function, or they have to go to the emergency room instead of a doctor, that's a problem for all of us. It makes all of our costs go up. It's all related. So I would respectfully disagree with Councilman Salem on that one. Yes, sir.
Thank you. You have to bear with me here. This is the only second time I've ever been to a meeting like this. Last time I was here, you might remember me, because I kind of like broke down, let's say. And I thank you for the empathy I saw on your face. But I have been trying since November of last year to be able to stay in my apartment. I'm a renter. Come December. Jacksonville Housing Authority is completely broken. It was broken 24, and it's worse than 25. I won't go into the details about all these people that's been arrested down there or fired from there or terminated from there. I'm shaking.
It's okay. Take your time. Take your time.
Since I was here last time, which has been months, I've tried to do what I can through Jacksonville Housing Authority. It's not there. I've talked to dozens of people. There is also a Jacksonville Housing. I don't know the difference. I don't know the difference between a voucher and a Section 8. I've been told they're the same. I've been told they're different. I get no answers. Since the last time I was here, right up till July, I had to go across the big ditch to Palatka because I had a medical problem in my family. And I was gone a month.
Would you like to take the mic and sit down? Are you okay standing
I'm
there?
all right.
All right, okay.
Just takes me a minute.
It's okay. I just want you to know you can sit if you need to.
But what I found out since the last time I was here, Duval County is the 6th most populated county in the state. It's #1 in evictions in the state. We're just over $1 million at this point. Miami is just under $3 million, and we are number 1 in the state. But I just heard also on the news the other night that Duval is above the average for suicides in the state of Florida. This is what I just heard. The question, or what I've been trying to find out, and I've got no answers from nobody. Everybody that was there in 24 is gone. Number 1 and number 2 got fired or arrested. One person charged with $25,000 in theft and debits. In 25, one person has been charged or arrested for $12 million of misappropriation of funds or stealing it. And then in 25, one more was gone. Now, I don't know who hires these people, but they hired somebody, is my understanding, out of Indiana. Why is somebody from Indiana coming to Duval? They brought this person down here from Indiana. I won't go into what I saw as far as the money, because I'm not real good on these technology telephones, and I don't even know how to turn a computer on. But they brought this person down here to fix it. Before I went to Palatka, she said on the news that she had fired all 25 employees of Jacksonville Housing Authority, but they could be rehired, which that's what corporations do. Then in the same breath, she said she terminated all 12 employees of the vouchers. They are terminated. They're not coming back. So then she said she's going to outsource vouchers. That is passing the buck from wherever she's supposed to do to somebody else doing her damn job. I did not even know that Jacksonville Housing Authority had a board. If I'd have known that, I'd have been beating on their door before I came in here last time. I know there's a board for everything, JEA, JIA, J whatever. I didn't know there was a JHA.
They're an independent agency. Yes.
And they don't get paid. I found that out. That's really weird. And you appointed some person to them, I believe. But I found that out when I was over in Palatka. And I said, there's a board. Never heard of it. And this woman that's hired to fix Jacksonville Housing Authority now is going to outsource the biggest problem. Everybody I talked to on the phone said there's between 5,000 and 7,000 people waiting for vouchers or Section 8s.
Well, we have 26,000 people on a waiting list right now.
I don't dispute that at all. Like I said, 17,000 evictions just last year. And this woman's going to outsource this to where Indiana, Miami, Orlando, Tampa. We live in Duval. You're our mayor. We're behind you. But now she's done said she's going to outsource it. Then when I heard this thing about a board, the board went ahead and okayed it. I have been down to City Hall, and I've never had to do nothing like this in my 69 years of life. I got nowhere there. I don't know if anybody here knows or not, but councilman is a part-time job. It is. It's a part-time job. From $20,000 to $60,000 a year, from what I could find out on this stupid phone. When I went down there in December to meet with my council member where I live at, there was like 5 women standing around, and they said, oh, they're on vacation till January. So I left it there, and then I went back again, beating on the phone, trying to get a hold of somebody.
Could you just tell me, if you would, what is your specific issue that you're having? Because I want to bring Josh Hicks up here. Josh is my director of affordable housing, okay? That is a position that we didn't have before, but because affordable housing has become such an issue, we created that when I came into office. He has worked with this organization, and I do believe that most people believe it's getting better. I'm seeing a lot of head nods out there. So Josh, if you would come up, I would love to hear what your specific issue is you're having, but he can give you a whole lot more insight into how this stuff works. But I will also tell you that the eviction diversion programs and all, that's been cut too. So
What?
that got cut from the budget also.
What does that mean?
Eviction diversion programs that we had, just trying to help people stay in their homes. But look, would you like to talk about the issue, Josh, or do you want him to tell you? What's the first?
Finish up first.
Yeah,
here.
please. But I do have a lot of people in line, so I want you to get to what your particular issue
My
is.
point is, I've been living in the same apartments for 11 years. I am a renter. I'm not a homeowner. Wish I was. My apartment manager told me, get me a voucher. You ain't got to go nowhere. I don't want you to go. When I went down to Jacksonville Housing Authority, they told me they were closed for 3 years. This is what I was told. So they give me some papers with all these places you can call for affordable housing. Everyone I called, the first thing they asked, have you ever been evicted? Well, if I get evicted, I ain't even going to get in them. My question or what I'm asking, and my apartment manager said, get me a voucher. You ain't got to go nowhere. How can I get one?
Thank you, Mayor. Great question. So there's a lot to untangle there, and I don't have the time to answer everything with that question. I gave you my card. Please reach out. We can have an hour, 2 hour, however long you need meeting to get to the end. The voucher program is basically closed right now. It's that waiting list is correct. It's 27,000 people. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, Section 8, is about 5,000 to 7,000 people. They have multiple different programs within the waiting list. And until they get to a certain amount where they can get to people within 3 years, they're not going to reopen the waiting list. So you're looking at about 5 years right now. JHA has gone through CEOs. They've gone through leadership over the last 2 years, predating this mayor's term. There's been a lot of fraud. There's been a lot of illegal dealings that I'm not going to get into. With the previous leadership of that organization, Sharon Corbett has been brought in. Sharon Corbett. She's, I think, 2 months on the job now. And
is that the lady?
That's
from
the new
Indiana?
lady. She has history at the Housing Authority outside of Chicago, in Chicago.
My understanding,
She's
been
a
there
developer.
since March.
She has a development mind, so she wants to build more low-income and affordable housing, something JHA has not been doing. Listen, I'm the first affordable housing director that we've had in Jacksonville's history, and it shows. That's why we're in a housing crisis, because we haven't been putting the resources into whether it's JHA in the low-income housing sector or the city of Jacksonville for housing that's low-income, moderate-income. So we have a deficit. In the first 2 years of the Deegan administration, we've been able to get 6,000 units now online, in progress, or under construction to deal with affordable housing. But that number needs to grow by a lot. And that's why we asked for this funding on the local level, because there's only so much we can do on the federal and state side. Federal side is the vouchers. JHA gets a certain number of vouchers every year from HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Department in DC. They have about 500 vouchers that they can't spend right now because they don't have the money for it, because we weren't prepared when prices went up after COVID. So our cheapest housing, which was $400, $500, $600, is now $700, $800, $900. So those vouchers are now costing $900 instead of costing $400. With that being said, she fired some people in that program because they were allowing folks who make market rate, they were making $79,000, $80,000 a year, get a voucher when they shouldn't have been getting a voucher. So she's brought in this company, she's outsourced it, because this company has the experience and the history of righting the wrong in housing authorities across the country to fix their voucher program. So she's trying to fix it. She's trying to identify where her previous, not her staff, but previous staffs have allowed people who are well off to get a voucher, eliminate those vouchers, get the money back so that then they can have more resources to open the list. So I could go on this for forever. There's a whole lot of other issues involved in that, but she is trying to right the wrong, and she's only been in the position for about 2 months now. Will it take time? Yes. So what we're trying to do is fund programs to keep people housed. The eviction diversion program, that was a CQLI program. It was funded with $1 million originally when the mayor first took office. It helped 218 people, 218 families avoid eviction last year. And it walks them through the court eviction process if they can't work out a deal with the landlord. And if they do get evicted, it wipes their record so they don't have an eviction on their record, and they help them find alternative housing. So 218 families were helped last year. 350 are supposed to be helped this year and next year with that program. We asked for an additional $500,000 because the program's been so successful to help an additional 80 families, which would have increased that number to 430. And the council currently has said no. So we recognize evictions are an issue. We are #1 in the state. We are called the eviction capital of Florida.
Oh, yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. We have thousands of people getting evicted every year because we have not been able to build the housing supply and bring down the rent cost to be able to make it affordable. So we are working on it. These programs are working. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're here tonight, to really try to put that pressure on the council that we need these funding, because it's not just about building housing. It's also about keeping people housed. But I would love offline to have a meeting with you to go through your issue specifically, see if I can get you in touch with some of the leadership at JHA and see if we can get a solution for you.
I appreciate that, but again,
Thank you, Josh.
one last thing I would like to say, and I understand there's 5,000 or 7,000 or 17,000, but it makes no sense for people like me, older people or couples or kids or families with one parent, if they're living there and they can't get help before they get thrown out. This does not make sense. And that's all I'm asking you.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, sir, at all. Thank you. I'm sorry that you're still going through that.
Hello,
Yes,
my
ma'am.
question is,
What is your name?
I'm Sally Barnes.
Sally?
Been here before, yes.
Yes, thank you for being here.
My question is, who determines what neighborhood get a certain amount of money? The reason I ask that question is because we're still having this problem with this ditch. They are allowing Ashley Chemical
what? I'm
Company-
sorry.
This ditch that's
Ditch.
eroding my property between my house is now leaning toward the ditch. The ditch is not permitted. I've given copies. I took copies of the GIS map to your office, to your front office staff. I've given them to them. I've taken them to the city council. I gave them copies of the GIS map stating that it's an outfall ditch. But what they didn't tell is they're not claiming it as an outfall ditch. They say it's a natural drain. It's not. They're allowing Ashley Chemical Company to drain their wells, of which they're testing to clean out through into this retention pond, into those retention ponds, which is causing problems. My neighbor fell in that ditch last year in April. She had a heart attack and a stroke. Now she has cancer. I have had 2 dogs die because when it flooded and it was in the water, my dog drank some of that water. My last dog died. He's been dead a year now of lung cancer. This ditch is toxic. They don't care. First person I had out there was John Pappas. I had him out there. He told them to check that easement because if I have a 7.5-foot easement on that ditch. My fence is in the ditch. People are calling dog pound on me because my dogs were getting out. I had to pin them up. My thing is, if everybody's getting an equal share, they need to stop this ditch up. Honestly, they need to stop it up because my house can't take too much leaning. My walls are cracking. My AC unit is leaning, and it's because of, and they not only do Ashley Chemical Company's water, they drain the whole neighborhood into those 2 retention ponds.
Do you know, Nina, if this is are you
I
familiar
talked-
with this at all? Okay. Okay,
Yes.
so do you know if
To
this is a
nothing.
project that's on the books to get done, or what's the situation with it?
My house can't stand too much leaning. My walls are cracking. My floors are leaning like this,
Okay.
and something has to be done.
We've been working with you for several years on this, and I understand it hasn't
No.
been resolved. The distinction is between what's a natural creek and what's considered a city maintained outfall ditch. And so we're working with our survey group to resolve that. That is why Ms. Barnes has said she has brought some instruments and other documents that support her side, and we're working with that to make sure that we understand the maintenance responsibilities.
I took James Carroll back there. I have witnesses. Whenever I take anybody anywhere, I have a witness with me. I have a picture of him where we took him back there where there is no creek.
Well, obviously, also, if
And
you have
it's
a situation where you believe that there's something toxic back there, we
It is
need to
toxic.
address that.
The city official, I saw him taking samples out of it one day. I asked him what he was doing. He said there is a high level of toxicity in this ditch.
I promise you, I will personally
And
follow up on this, okay?
I have the documents about the Ashley Chemical Company. I have a whole tablet full. I've also offered to share these with people. Nobody wants, I've tried to get a meeting with you. Your front office desk won't allow me to meet with you. They told me once that you said they should take care of me.
No,
No.
I don't know what you're talking, I don't
I'm
know,
just saying,
I don't
I'm
know,
just- this
I
is
don't
what
know
I've
this
gone through.
situation before I have just heard it, so.
This is what I've been going
So,
through.
I would say, Nina has your information.
She's got my information.
I am happy to meet with you, but I promise you
Okay.
I will also personally follow up on
Okay,
this,
I would
okay?
like to meet with you so I can show you the same thing I've shown
Okay.
everybody else, because they won't allow me. They block
We'll
my
do it.
emails.
We'll do it. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello,
Good evening.
good evening. My question is kind of simple, but you believe in investing in the first responders. Well, the general employees should also be invested the same way. So my question is this: why do the first responders get a 12% and a 5% and a 5% raise, and general employees only get a 4, 3, and 3? At the end of the day, everyone does work, and everyone should be paid fairly. And the problem you're having with general employees is they're quitting and going to other places because
Listen, I get it. I've said that when we
you
are.
need to pay them more.
We
or-
are constantly, listen, I have said that since I came in. The problem is that there's not the revenue to do that. There's not
Yes.
the revenue to do that. In fact, in terms of our health care program for our employees is self-funded.
Right.
We are taking a bath on that every single year now because it's not funded anymore. But yet, the advice has been go up on the health insurance cost for your employees. We haven't done that. But listen, here, let me just say this about public safety. It is different. It is different because those folks literally are putting their lives on the line every single day to make sure that we're safe. They are. But they run into a burning building or they're having to chase a bad guy down the road. They're having to cover 840 square miles of city to try to keep us safe. And I would dearly love to pay our city employees more. I get beat up for the fact that I gave the employees a raise at all last year. But at the end of the day, I am with you. I don't know how you keep good people unless you're able to pay them a better wage. But again, this all comes down to what kind of city do we want to have? And that's really sort of the point that I'm trying to make tonight. A tax cut always polls well. But if you take a look at what we actually bring in, at what we actually tax people in this city, it's so much lower in terms of comparison to other cities, but that is the issue. We got a CFO of the state of Florida who came into town today and said, "Oh, you ought to be able to cut $200 million out of that budget." Really?
Well,
I would love to see where he'd like to cut $200 million. He doesn't have any suggestions on that, but he says police and fire is going to be fine. But cut $200 million out of that budget. I'm going to tell you right now, there is no way we could run a city of 1 million people and 840 square miles that is a county and a city consolidated cutting $200 million from this budget. It would not happen. It's a beautiful talking point, but it has no resemblance to reality whatsoever.
Well, this thing with people wanting tax cut, I went to the city council meeting. When they talked about cutting the taxes, people booed them. They booed. I mean, the boos were like crazy. It's kind of like here at a baseball game, And 3 times the city has had referendums to increase taxes, sales taxes and millage rates, and all 3 times that passed. So that means you could raise the millage rate 1 or 2, put it on the referendum. Put it on a referendum where you raise the millage rate 1 or 2 cents.
Well,
Okay. This pay cut, right? This cut that they're going to do will give me a cup of coffee a year. So I want to thank Rory Diamond for my cup of coffee. Other people can't have coffee because of the cut. I'll gladly donate the coffee to them.
Thank you. I appreciate your point, and I've made the same point, just so you know. But I do want to, before we get to the next question, since I did bring up the CFO's visit today, I want to point out a couple things, because he said that I gave everybody in the city a 23% raise. 23, that's what he said we did. Now he's been looking over 5 years, from 2020 to now, okay? Of course, we did not do that. And he said, and I'm sure she didn't do nearly that much for police and fire. So let me tell you what we spent on police and fire. We have increased JSO and JFRD by more than $270 million between 2019 and today, and a well-deserved 36% increase over that period. They were underpaid. They were underpaid. The annual city investments for road resurfacing, our 840 plus square miles, doubled during that time from 10 million to 26 million. And our combined operating and emergency reserves increased by $245 million, an 89% increase. We have a AA plus rating from the bonding agencies. We are very responsible with our dollars. And in fact, I wish we could do more. I truly wish we could do more. But it is, there were no suggestions, there was nothing that bears any resemblance to anything that we're actually doing in this city, nor an acknowledgement that we're in a consolidated government. So we are going to continue to cooperate with the Florida Doge folks, but at the end of the day, I just got to say, I was looking for the beef today and I did not find any.
Yeah. Well, I had one suggestion. Lower the tax rate on homesteaded homes and raise it that 1/8 on the non-homesteaded stuff, especially the apartment complexes.
Thank you. I'm open for all kinds of suggestions, trust me. Come on up.
Hi, Mrs. Deegan. My name is Natalie Rucker. I am currently a senior here at Riverside High School.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here.
I was just wondering, do you have any monetary plans for supporting the arts here in the high school, such as choirs, art clubs, theater departments? We are heavily requiring a lot of fundraisers, sponsors, and I am in the choir here, and seeing my teacher having to spend money out of his pocket is heartbreaking. So I was just wondering if you have any plans.
Well, I will tell you that we have increased arts funding in Jacksonville proper since I came into office, because it has an enormous return on investment, a 20-to-1 return on investment for any money we invest in the arts, which is, of course, very important to young people. What's spent in the schools really comes from a different pot of money. It doesn't come from the city, it really comes from a state formula. And I know that sounds complicated, but it's a whole different millage and everything else. So it's not something we do. I certainly would encourage more spending on that front. I think a lot of the things that folks get frustrated about with money to schools, I think they don't necessarily recognize where those funds come from, how they're calculated, and how they're spent. But we have an elected school board. We have a school superintendent that makes those decisions, and then the state really sets all of that stuff. So it's not something we can invest in through the city, but I would absolutely encourage it, and I absolutely, am so thrilled that you are here connecting on this issue. I wish that you would make a phone call to whoever your state representative is, and your school board member. Find out who your school board representative is, and say, this is really, what's that? Well, vote too. Voting is very important too. I'm just saying that it's, what I'm learning throughout these meetings, and every time we hold them, I'm always so happy to be able to help people understand the civic process a little bit better, because I love so much that people are willing to spend their evenings of their own time to come have these meetings where they let me know the problems they're having. And 9 times out of 10, somebody will stand up and say, well, I had no idea that's how that works. Now that I know, I'm going to go find that person, and I'm going to make sure that I talk to that person. And I think especially since you're a student, I think your voice would really resonate. But beyond that, you need to get used to speaking up, because we're going to need you for a long time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy. How are you?
Hi, Nancy. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I'm here to talk about affordable housing and homelessness. And thank you for the investment you have in your staff. And you have a lot of staff who know a lot about these topics. And I was kind of here to see what you know. And I think you have good facts and figures. So thank you for that. I think I'm going to steal something from you. A budget is a morale statement. It dictates any community's values. And I think we can't forget that when we talk about those that are unsheltered. The National Alliance currently sees the trends in terms of who is homeless. The impact obviously is not enough affordable housing at a very low, extremely low income level. The current average income for anybody on SSDI does not allow them to really live anywhere. I was at Blvd Housing today, a great organization, and they're opening up a lot of new things, but even their cost point has gone up. And working with people who really are on a very low income, we're not sure how we're going to find subsidies to help them get into those units, so that's a concern. Also, seniors who are homeless because of inflation, we're seeing across the board at COCs, and Jimmy, we miss him on the Duval COC. We're looking at 30 to 40% of people who on the PIT count are seniors. And that's something I think we can address and take care of because most of them have some resource or revenue. So really my question to you is, with all the federal changes that we're seeing, how can you get ahead of that?
That's tough. I mean, that's what we're trying to do with these pilot programs, honestly. And with our funding for, Tracy Polson's been out front for us on our homelessness programs. I don't know if you want to talk about any of that, Tracy. No? Okay, you do or don't? You do? Okay.
Thank you. So as you may be aware, in 2024, the state passed a law banning public camping and public sleeping. So Josh Hicks and I co-led a group of about 25 stakeholders to come up with a plan, a 12-point plan to address that. We did some amazing things. We asked the city council that year for about $10 million. They cut all of that. We were able to get a few things sort of passed throughout that year. This year we asked for a lot both on the homelessness and the affordable housing piece, one of which was going to be a pilot program for using hotel rooms as efficiencies, because to your point, and Josh can speak more about the numbers related to extremely low income, but that is where we have a dearth of housing. So our thinking is to work with all of our shelters and get folks that are ready for that sort of that next step and be able to use hotel rooms as like efficiencies or one-bedroom apartments, and then you have a pipeline that you're beginning to address. So we asked for some funds. We don't know where that's going to do, but we're going to keep fighting for that. So thank you for your question.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, so the answer, I don't know how we're going to overcome what's happening at the federal level. Honestly, I don't know that. Yeah. But what we can do and what we're trying to do with some of these programs is, and this is why I talk a lot about the return on investment from making sure, it was interesting to me today at the end of his press conference that the CFO did. He said, what we really need to be focused on here in Jacksonville is affordable housing. And I went, oh, because, but the thing is, it's inventory. It's inventory. We have to increase the inventory because at the end of the day, that's really the solution to everything, right? In order to get people off the streets on any sort of a permanent basis, the inventory has to be increased. We're in a tough spot with our vouchers right now. We're trying to create programs that then the private sector wants to invest in because we don't have city money to be able to invest widely in these programs. We just don't have that kind of money. But if we can show the private sector what the great return on that investment is for economic development in our city, for our economy, they'll come in, and they have. But it is a process. They want to see our skin in the game, and then they'll put skin in the game. But that's where we are. This proposal that Tracy was talking about from last year, we came in, we said the city, if we put in a $10 million loan, we were going to get this money back. We already had folks, businesses and others lined up with almost $40 million of match that would get us to $40 million, which would account for a great deal more money than that over the next several years. Would continue to grow, that we could then use for those programs. And they did not see the wisdom in that. we are fighting a mentality that you just don't spend. You know, invest in police and fire, invest in trash pickup, and the rest let the private sector take care of. And at the end of the day, that doesn't always work in a local government. We are the government closest to the people, so we have to aid in solving those problems, right? But we're trying to show solutions that will incentivize the private sector to come help us. And I think we will get there. It is just, it's frustrating when I think that a mix of political pressure and other things get involved in these decisions.
Right.
And because I know that most of the folks right now who are lined up on the side of decreasing those property taxes, for instance, they know it's not a good idea. They know it isn't a good idea. They understand where we are. They've been lecturing me for the last 2 years that we're going to go over a fiscal cliff, and now we want to cut our already low property taxes.
Right.
But so you can see where if you're arguing that, it's hard to even get to the point where you're arguing about money for affordable housing or homelessness or seniors' meals or any of those things that really help us as a community become, you know, that city that we all want to have.
Yeah.
So we're just going to continue to try to educate our citizens about what we're trying to accomplish and why we believe those things will work, and hope that with enough folks, you know, behind us that they will, you know, start to listen to some of those arguments.
Right. And homelessness has been through a very long trend of trying things.
Yeah.
You know, housing is healthcare. We thought we could probably really loop into healthcare industry to help. Very minimum. In some aspects, it's very geographic and where that is popular and where it's not.
Yeah.
You know, our rural counties have pretty much nothing, but they do have faith communities that really do the work now.
Yeah.
And even in Jacksonville, you have small organizations
Yes.
that are doing fantastic things. They may have 15 tiny homes and they're taking care of DV people.
Yep.
So it's amazing that that is getting done, and I don't know if that really wants to be more published, but that would make any difference. But in reality, government is here to help.
Yes,
So
should be.
It is a moral issue. And
Yeah.
if we can really get back to that, then I think, yes, facts and figures are great. They can demonstrate to others that need to see that. But we can't lose sight of why we need to do this work.
Well, but just so you know, though, I mean, I think the numbers are important because that's what works with the business community.
Right.
That's what they want to hear. They want the numbers. They want the proof of performance.
Well,
you
they
know?
don't want their money wasted.
Right. And I get
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You know, I get that. So thank you. I appreciate you very much. Good evening,
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Peter Bornstein.
Peter. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I have two requests. I would like to see upzoning. I'm proud and willing to pay my taxes, but it's difficult to hear so much about social housing when we're standing in a neighborhood that makes it functionally illegal to build apartments. Intuitively, I assume I should be allowed to build shelter for human beings on land that I own. That clearly isn't true. I frequently read about developers fighting protracted legal battles with city council to build shelter. The free market is going to provide the bulk of our housing. Most people live in market rate housing. So I was wondering if you could support market rate housing in addition to affordable housing.
Well, yeah, we're building a lot of market rate housing right now. There's a lot of that that's going on. I think you hear about affordable housing so much. And when I say affordable housing, I'm also talking about workforce housing, you know, for people that are teachers and cops and you know, hospitality workers and things, not just folks who are in Section 8 housing. But I think we do support that quite tremendously, actually. I don't disagree with you, and we're certainly working on the zoning at the moment, but I'm not sure what you're asking me if that's a different question than the one I'm answering.
Right, the zoning. I specifically would like to see more housing within our urban neighborhoods. Right now, I believe a lot of the subdivisions being added are exterminating vast swaths of nature. And while I'm sad about that, I believe housing for people should come first. And they'd be more practical in neighborhoods like mine in Springfield and neighborhoods like this one that are so close to the central business district.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you. Yeah.
Secondly, I was hoping if more of the transportation budget could go to protecting pedestrians and bicyclists, that in order household spending from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in order the expenses are housing, transportation, food, and healthcare. And so if we free up some of these transportation dollars by maybe swapping a car trip for a bike trip, people can spend their money towards their other needs. Based on past results, we can expect to see maybe 200 people die in traffic this year, which is sad, and even more people suffer horrific injuries, and that has a financial impact. People go from contributing to society to needing care.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that has been our goal in terms of not only zoning, but in city planning. We're trying to create more of those clustered, walkable, rideable communities where people don't have to get on their in their car and drive 20 miles. That's going to take a while, right? But we are accomplishing that. And in the things that we are building, we're trying to get in bike lanes and hopefully protected bike lanes in those places. So we are on that page. We understand we have a big problem with pedestrian deaths, and we are working to try to bring that down. But again, it's a big city. And so we're working on the neighborhoods where we feel like we can accomplish that in more short order at the moment.
I understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm shorter.
I'm right there with you, sister.
First, I'm Nina Perez. I'm a resident of Lakeshore. I just want to say thank you. The presentation was beautiful, and thank you for all the work that you're doing, Mayor Deegan. I had two questions related to the presentation. They're related, I promise, and they're short.
Okay.
So, I think housing crisis is something that I'm a child care advocate. One of the things I always think about is when housing increases, so does child care, because as rent increases, childcare has to increase in order to make their bottom line because of the high cost of rent or facilities and things like that. I'm wondering if you've heard of folks from that. Are you seeing an increase in the childcare sector? Are you hearing complaints essentially of either childcare centers closing down because of increased costs in housing, or also that they're not able to keep up with housing themselves? So, and related to that question, you talked about in the presentation, when you say that the council cut all the local funding for housing, can you break that down a bit? Where is the other money coming from that they haven't cut?
The federal government.
The federal government. So that might go away too. Cool. That's great. Okay. That's great.
In answer to your question, we talk about child care all the time. It certainly is to your specific question, I don't think we've heard necessarily. Melissa, do you have? Come here.
So we've been hearing about this all over town. We're going to be launching a child care task force at City Hall later this year to address what is really another crisis, the lack of affordable, accessible child care for too many families in our community. Whether it's centers closing or just families can't find affordable child care that's convenient to them. They might have to drive a long distance to get their child put somewhere that they feel comfortable with. It's a problem for thousands and thousands of families, and it's an economic pain point in addition to the affordable housing crisis. And so that's something else that we are looking at. We've assembled a whole task force of stakeholders, and we'll be holding publicly noticed meetings at City Hall. So look out for that information later.
I would encourage you to think. I'm happy to help. By the way, I'm a child care policy expert.
Give her
Housing
your
and
card.
child care go together really tightly.
Yeah.
When housing goes up, child care. Melissa.
That's very interesting. I don't know that I had necessarily connected those two things in terms of but
You lose supply.
Yeah.
Or costs go up.
Yeah.
Like either one. So as your housing costs keep going up,
Yeah.
or even as they go down, they're going to continue to be because they can't meet the demand.
That
And
makes
at that
sense.
point,
That makes perfect sense.
so those
Yep.
really connected.
We'd love to have your
Yeah.
connection. Thank
you so much.
Did you give your stuff to Melissa? You did? Okay, thank you so much. Okay. Hi, good evening.
Hi, Mayor Deegan. I'm Carol Garner. I'm actually from Fort St. Nicholas DAR, Daughters of American Revolution.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, and I thank you and Bill Delaney, Jimmy Peluso, and Daryl Joseph, who all have been very helpful. And we finally got the Calford marker text passed. I'm going to give you a copy of what it's going to be, and we're going to put it up and unveil it on July 4th, 2026 for our big celebration. And I just got notice this afternoon that I got a $15,000 grant from the state for America 250 to hold the celebration. So I'm just hoping that the city will be willing to do that. But all I need is the $3,000 to pay for the marker. And so I'm going to match it 5 times if that would be possible. And I have a authorization form. I need somebody from the city that has the authority to say that yes, and this is going to the National Daughters of American Revolution in D.C. to tell them that we have legal right to put it in the
Can you
property.
leave that? Can you leave that with Melissa?
I will. Who is Melissa?
Right here.
Oh, okay. You have a card.
Yeah, I'll give you one. By the way, my great-grandmother was also...
And DAR? Oh, well, we got to do this. But anyway, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I needed.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Hello, good night.
Good evening.
I have my notes because English is not my mother language. My name is Marcela. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. You speak very well.
Thank you. Well, I am an international entrepreneur interested in establish my headquarters in downtown Jacksonville. My goal is to invest in the city and contribute to our vision of making Jacksonville the business capital of the Southwest.
I love it. I love it.
How can I, as a new investor, best partner with you to help make that a reality?
Okay. So you're a small business owner?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a business in Brazil that is specialized in the sale of spectacle lenses, and we help the community to reduce healthcare costs because we deliver an affordable alternative for the community.
Gosh, I'm trying to figure out who on the team would be the best one to connect her with. Colin, how are you? Great to see you. This is our Downtown Investment Authority new chief.
Oh, hello.
Colin, I'm so glad you're here. I didn't see you. I would have said so earlier. Connect with Colin, and we will. And there's Ed Randolph right back here from our Economic Development Office, and the two of them can help connect you to.
Good. I am already talking with Alan and Steve from DIA.
Great.
They have been great.
Okay.
So I have to thank
Wonderful.
the city for having us here, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I thank you all, you guys, for the opportunity.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for choosing Jacksonville.
Hi, Mayor Deegan. I'm Sophia Lanza.
Good
Thank
evening,
you for
Sophia.
coming out today.
Of course.
First of all, homelessness, housing, all of the things you're already fighting for are, of course, at the top of my list as well. I have a very niche issue here. The city of Jacksonville.gov/store, all of those items are being sourced outside of the city. There was like a laundry list of items as to why our city vendors couldn't do it. But I feel like that's an opportunity where you have to bet on your local city people in order to produce those items and to give them the opportunity to step up and be on the same level as those big organizations and those big corporations. So I'm just asking city of government people, lean on our local vendors and our local artists to procure things like that because it puts the money right back into our city.
We are trying to do that with some of the things that we're doing, but I will tell you that the only way we were able to get this approved and off the ground was if it cost us $0. So the only way we were able to do that is connect with an on-demand service that wouldn't charge us anything, and people just, we don't spend. People order directly, right? So it's not something that we talked it over. Our problem is we couldn't put out money in order to get. So we're hoping that this whole store idea gets big, and and we're continuing to talk with local vendors about how we can find a way to wade into that space without spending a ton of money in the front end. But I think it's a wonderful idea, and we want to do it. But I do recognize that's an issue. We didn't like it, honestly, but we didn't have a whole lot of choice when we started the store.
Heard. Appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Deegan. My name is Dr. Cindy Robinson. I serve as the president of Jacksonville Sister Cities Association. We've served the city here as a local nonprofit for 58 years. I've got some board members here and some other people who are on some of our committees. And so we're concerned because we do get a sponsorship from the city every year. And so we're concerned about how that budget cut, which we've been informed we may be in line for, will affect the work that we do as a local nonprofit. We talk about return on investment. Over the 58 years that we've served the city of Jacksonville, we've invested over $500 million, $500,000, sorry. That would be great, right? $500,000 through like delegation visits, people coming from other countries, trade and academics, educational events and programs that have put
You
money
spoke at
back.
the city council meeting the other night, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was impressive, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, it fed into the city. So when we talk about return on investment, that little bit we get every year, we use to do a lot. And we have a student program that has sent over 200 students overseas over the last 20 years in different countries to come back and interject that back into their middle schools. We have middle schools going and sitting with city mayors in South Korea, and it's changing their lives. Students going to South Africa and learning, and that makes a difference. I'm an educator. I work at FSCJ. I direct their international program there. And so, I mean, my last 15 years has been in international education and seeing what a difference infusing that into the lives of our students makes for not only employability, but for just making them better humans, and impacting our students. I've been an educator for several decades now. So that's important for us as an organization. And without the support of the city, we won't survive as an organization, having served 58 years, and we are the organizational support that allows that program to continue for our students. And so as you're making all these critical things about housing and homelessness, and I have a family member who was unsheltered homeless for years. I mean, these things really speak to my spirit. But as an educator and as a board president and a person who's done community work for a very long time, how are decisions being made for people like us, for boards like us, for places where we do make a difference in the community, even though we may not directly affect housing or homelessness?
Who is your city council person? Do you know? Is it Councilman Peluso?
Jacoby Pittman is our council liaison.
Okay. Well, okay. But do you know? Okay, that's fine. Where do you live?
Well, I live on the west side, but our board serves the whole city of Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of who could be because the 23rd will be the last opportunity to get things back into the budget.
Yeah, and
That's
under
Tuesday
the
night.
office. Yeah, we're under the Office of Economic Development.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I'm suggesting is you need a champion up there.
Yeah.
And you also need to come back and speak again on the 23rd, passionately like you did before. That's your opportunity, but it would help if you had somebody on the council that was willing to carry that message too.
Okay.
So, do you have a relationship with anybody on the council? Oh, Joe? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Rockman, that's you?
Yep.
Okay, there's your city
Yep.
council person.
Yeah.
Talk to Rockman and he'll help you out. And boy, I tell you what, he can sell it. I'll tell you that. Rockman's got the oratory skills to get up there and do it. So, thank you. I appreciate it. Good evening.
Hi, so my name is Pierce Renfro. I've been
Pierce?
a resident, yes. I've been a resident of Riverside for my entire life. And I have two major things, but I'm going to make it pretty quick. So, number one, is I'd like to know why we're not investing in our existing transportation infrastructure, because I've seen all this stuff, especially recently, about, for instance, we built this entire new structure on Bay Street, and we've got all these buses running up and down Bay Street, trying to transport people from Jefferson all the way over to the stadium. And I'm just wondering why I've seen a few different numbers about this, but these are supposed to be automated, but we've also got people sitting in the vehicles while we're doing this, and then we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars supporting this kind of infrastructure when we already have a monorail that runs from the South Bank all the way up to Hogan Street, and it could easily be expanded, taking a lane out of Bay Street, sending it down there, even bringing it down into Riverside. I've been in Riverside. I'm within walking distance of 5 Points. I would love to be able to take public transportation into downtown, but it's just really not convenient for me, and I think that there are a lot of people out there who would agree that we live in close enough proximity to downtown that we would absolutely be able to take the Skyway if it actually would go a significant distance. Because currently it's just essentially a few blocks.
Well, it would be extraordinarily expensive to expand the Skyway in that manner. And I think I know there are a lot of people that disagree with the autonomous vehicles. There are many major cities that are starting to look at not only what we're doing but other cities and believe that is a way forward. They're electric vehicles. They don't pollute. The tracks can be expanded on those for a fraction of the cost that you would be able to expand the Skyway with. Obviously, we'd love to have rail in our city too at some point that beyond what the Skyway has. But these are all extraordinarily expensive options, and this is an innovation that I think we really can lead with. I understand I understand your frustration, truly do. Understand it. It's a big city and that's hard. But I think you have to try to figure out what is your most efficient means of getting people from point A to point B. And I know that at least I am sold that this is a good thing that we're doing. And I'm hopeful to watch it actually develop. It's brand new. It's going to take some time. It's going to have some bugs. There's no question about it. But I do think that we are going to be a leader in the nation when it comes to autonomous vehicles, and I think it'll be fantastic once it's done. That's my hope. Jen, would you like to address this in any way? Jen Busby from JTA, who's here.
Yeah, I just have.
Okay, let him finish his other question, and then I'm going to turn him right over to you. We've had so many transportation questions over the last few weeks, and Jen was out of town, and she called and said, I will be there at the next meeting to make sure I can answer all the transportation questions. So thank you. JTA is an independent agency, but we do work very closely together, and obviously transportation is critical to how we're going to succeed as a city. So I appreciate your question.
Okay, the other thing is I've lived around Park Street my entire life, and I've seen all this development over there, and I understand development is a great thing, and I love to see it, and I love to see the area around me getting built up and more people moving in, but I am also concerned because there are all these developments popping up all over Park Street, but then there are also all these people who lived on Park Street, all these people who are getting pushed out of their homes, who are getting market prices for their homes, and who may not be able to afford other places to live. And then there are all these businesses that are potentially going to be pushed out. There's a business at the corner of Park and Forest that's going to be replaced by a development, the Linux on Park development, and there's all this other stuff that's happening. And I'm just concerned that there are all these people who live in these areas that are being developed that are potentially not getting properly compensated for their homes based on the value of the development, not just based on the value of their home prior to the development coming in. And what's your plan for making sure these people have places to live? You've talked a lot about homelessness and about affordable housing this meeting, and just where are these people going to go?
Our plan is to try to create a better amount of inventory for affordable housing. That's what we're trying to do. It's always a balance, right? When you have a city that's growing and there's development that's happening, and obviously you need a plan for that. But at the end of the day, there are going to be people that are going to be leaving their homes and going to other places. But we have to have places for them to go. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to increase the inventory of those places for people to live that they can afford to live. And some people want to sell their property. They want to make that money and take it and do something else. But I'm not pretending that it's a perfect thing. It's just you're always going to deal with that balance of people who are going to be displaced and people who need another place to go. But you have to try to provide as much as you can an answer for that. And that's what we're trying to do with our affordable housing initiatives.
I just think one thing is that are you considering in working with these developers, because you do that, yes?
Yes.
Right. In working with these developers, are you pressuring them to include housing that would be available to the people who previously lived on these sites? Is there, like, for instance, on Park Street, there are a lot of these people who, these are not like large homes, these are not expensive homes. These
Yeah.
are people who do not have many resources.
We certainly, part of what we do is try to create incentives for affordable housing. Certainly, we do that. You know, that's one of the reasons we created a fund that was also cut from our budget this year that would have helped them to bridge the gap that often occurs when developers can't quite make those numbers work to create the affordable housing units because they're not making quite as much. That was cut also. But what I'm saying to you is, yes, we do work with developers all the time to try to make those things work. As far as specific people who are removed from their homes and having a place for that specific person to go, I don't know if it gets that specific. I hear what you're saying. But I think what we can do is try to create as much of an option for people as we can in this area and other areas around the city.
One more very minor thing.
Real quick.
Yeah. So the character of Brooklyn, I think, is also an important.
The what?
The character of Brooklyn, the neighborhood Brooklyn, is
Yes.
important to consider, like in developing it. Because
How long have you lived in Brooklyn?
I have not lived in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I live in Riverside, but I've lived a few blocks from Brooklyn for the last 18 years.
18 years, okay.
I've seen it grow, right?
And you've seen some of the areas and what they were like before the development
I have
happened.
absolutely seen that, but I'd also...
You've seen the crime and you've seen
I have absolutely seen all of this, but what I'm saying is that I believe that development should occur, but that we have to consider the character of the neighborhood, because Brooklyn was a black neighborhood for the initial 100 years of its existence, and now black people are being pushed out of their homes. Poor people are being pushed out of their homes, and we're bringing in all of these new young people who are working in these financial institutions downtown, and these other people have nowhere else to go. And on top of that, the character of the neighborhood is being removed, and all of these towers look exactly like every other building in every other area all across town, and there are still structures remaining. Especially on Park Street, there are multiple older buildings that just do not have historical designation that are inevitably going to be torn down if nothing is done about preserving the character of the neighborhood. There's a historically black church on, I believe it's Chelsea Street, that should be preserved. And
I love this guy. Would you run for city council, perhaps? I mean, wow. I love your passion and how engaged you are. No, I mean, these are real problems in our community, but people need that voice. I think you should seriously consider getting involved in your government. I mean, it is important. I'm telling you, you know, yes, these are difficult issues, but they're not unsolvable. But I do think that obviously we're growing fast downtown, and that's Brooklyn has become now part of the downtown. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't be making an effort to create more affordable housing around the same area. That's all I'm saying to you, and I do believe we are making an effort to do that. It's not going to be perfect, but I do believe we are making an effort. And in terms of the historical buildings, you know, for a long time, we just were mowing down buildings and leaving vacant lots. We're trying to get back to where we are getting more of those designations. So we are working on those things. It's just probably not going to be to your satisfaction, but that's why you should run for city council. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love, what was your name again? Pierce? Pierce, okay. Y'all watch out for Pierce. Pierce is going to be running the world pretty soon. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Mary McDowell, and I am 95. I became a first-time homeowner.
Yay.
Last month, I was 30 years in my home. My concern is in that 30 years, and I've had several council persons, but city services is an issue for me because we have blighted properties, overgrown properties. People are dumping, whom I can't identify all of them, but they are dumping tires and trash on the right-of-way. My name should pop up every time I call the city because of this, and I ride around the neighborhood and, you know, jot things down. I'm just concerned about it because as the gentleman, the young man before, he lives in the Riverside area. Everything seems to be improving and looking good over there, but nothing is happening in the Lackawanna area.
Yep.
And that's my major concern.
Well, let me say this, and I know y'all are going to get tired of hearing this. I sound like a broken record, but we put an additional $1 million in the budget this year to deal with blight, because what we learned is that the blight budget has been going down for a long time, and the blight all over our city is bad. We got a lot of blight, and so we put Al Ferraro on it, who has been absolutely unbelievably wonderful in terms of dealing with blight. And that money was cut from the budget, but he's still out there. You know, we're going to put other groups together and try to get what we can get. But I would love for you to talk to Al about your particular area. We're trying to get as much documentation for what's out there. What you're describing, we are seeing all over the city. It's not just in your area. So would you meet with her? Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for hearing me.
So I don't know what time is it. Okay, yeah, it's time to go. But let me just say to all of you that I cannot begin to thank you for your engagement. I'm so grateful that you are here and you're spending your time, whether you agree with what I've said tonight or any of my answers or any of the things. The fact that you're here gives me a great deal of hope for our city. And I think it's incredibly important for us to continue this dialogue with each other, especially with people that we don't necessarily agree with, right? You know, we were out at the beaches and the other night, and we had a great crowd just like this one, and we had a couple people who came up and said, you know what? I don't agree with you. And we had a good conversation, and I think we don't do enough of that. And so I'm very concerned about the political climate the way it is right now. We should redouble our efforts to see the person across from us as a human being, and sort of step back from the brink of where we have been in all of this. I'm very concerned that if we don't start having better conversations and better connection with each other, that we are headed down a very bad path. So that's just another way of me saying I think this is a step showing that you want to do that tonight, and I appreciate it more than I can tell you. So thank you very much.